Polish market is quite attractive. So there is a high deficit in trade, and the consumption in Poland is 3 times lower than in the West. So, of course, there is room for development of the chemical sector in Poland. The only thing that has not been told, that has not been certain, is the price of gas. So the question is, what Glyn Johnson said, is Poland in a different situation than the rest of Europe, or are we sort of on a similar level? And I think we are on a similar level, but we have to have the right kind of investment. Now, the weak point of the Polish chemical industry is the lack of a built-up development structure. When we look at the expenditures, it's something like 1.7 billion euros. Excuse me, I made a mistake. 3.5 billion euro. But this is only a fraction of what one of the BASF departments spends on R&D. So Poland needs this R&D structure. We need to look for new technologies, for new solutions.
We are talking about our not spending on R&D. Mr. Socha compared Poland to BASF, but they earn more than entire Polish chemical industry. Their investment in R&D are unbelievable and cannot be matched by companies other than leaders like Dow or DuPont. But the problem is that Polish chemical industry must fight the obstacles. On the one hand, you have the REACH system from the European Union, and it is sure that it costs a lot of money, and it still is costing those companies. And it will also cost the SMEs. Not all of them will survive. In the meantime, you have the climate policy, which also generates costs in the companies. And instead of thinking about R&D and good investment, they must cope how not to spend money on buying licenses, buying certificates, or even buying technologies. So today the Polish industry is a leader of energy efficiency, or even it's not only a European leader or a global, it's a global leader. The state treasury perceives the problem of globalization of chemical market and the resulting challenges, and also the challenges resulting from the ambitious climate policy fostered by the European Union member states, and we have to endorse that policy. We can see problems related to dynamics of policy, especially in terms of sourcing raw materials, the necessity to extend the product chain in our companies. So we support all the activities of our companies in that sector aimed at extension of the product chain. For example, the Lotus investment completed a few years ago. We're always interested in execution by our companies of different investment projects that support innovation and in our industry. We are ready to assist those companies in terms of ownership, but also in terms of raising funds. It's also about the activities of Polish pro-developmental investments. It's a governmental unit, an agency.
Grupa Azoty and Grupa Lotos decided to work together to see if there is space for this large investment between 11-12 billion zloty. So the feasibility assessment is being produced right now, and PwC is taking part in this. But of course, the key role will be played by the market analysis, and here we have huge question marks. So what Mr. Zieliński said, this process is very long. So if we reach a decision, so we would be looking at sort of 2019 as this final date.
The expansion plans are great. You can always ask, wouldn't it be better to invest that capital in Poland? Every company that is oriented to business will always look for places where they can have the highest margin, where they will generate the ROE the quickest. As far as raw materials, Synthos is looking for them in Senegal. It also shows that the companies are looking for raw materials in general. Not always it is the primary material like gas, but they need security of sourcing. In some cases, these are partial securities, but in other cases, through certain mergers, they will have access to a good market. And I would like to leave the question open about whether it is good to invest in Poland or abroad. Merger of the Azoty group with their suppliers and ensuring competitive price of raw materials for them is a key factor for competitiveness of their products. The chemical industry is very highly energy consuming. The other group of companies that will be attractive for chemical industry are companies in petrochemical and mining industry, like KGHM, like Orlen. The main business line of those companies supplies certain side products that can be used in chemical industry. So ensuring a competitive price of those raw materials or those side products is also very important for competitiveness of the final products. Another group, something that will show us the competitiveness of our market, is the cooperation between the chemical industry with their recipients. This should be preferably foreign companies investing in Poland in some joint projects.
So, of course, the formation of Grupa Azoty was one of the large factors which had helped this group and increased its competitiveness. There's also the building incentive in terms of increasing this competitiveness. For example, shared purchases of gas organized by the European Union. And so the role of the national treasury is obviously the diversification of the raw materials deliveries. And of course, looking at the costs that can be the costs of such developments. So the Ministry of Treasury is looking at it in a very positive way.